from the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Midwest. You're watching Beyond the Blast Doors live.
As a Merry Christmas gift, a little late, we have decided that we're going to talk Episode 9. David with you from Beyond the Blast Doors. Thank you so much for spending a little time with us over this holiday break. We understand that Christmas is now a thing of the past. Hopefully you had a special holiday. We understand that the new year is upon us, just about to smash us in the face because it's like hours away.
And a new year means a new Star Wars movie coming out this December.
And new books and new comics and new toys and all these things. But we want to do a deep dive into Episode 9 over-unders, what we think are going to happen with specific characters, maybe ships. How many screen wipes are we having? I don't know.
I'm super excited for this conversation.
Because it's a thing where I'm at the point now where I feel like I should have had a Star Wars movie a couple of weeks ago, and I have to wait a whole nother year. And you're probably feeling the exact same thing. We're all in the same boat. But hey, you know what? I've had my Christmas meals, my Christmas booze. I've got my Christmas sweater still on, and we're going to do a deep dive into Episode 9. I am jacked because if I get one of these things right, I will consider that a victory. Let's just start with like the film itself. So like not the story, but the actual product, the film. How long of a movie are we going to get with Star Wars Episode 9, the finale to the Skywalker saga, concluding 42 years of Star Wars?
What are your thoughts on this before I throw mine out there? 'Cause
Okay.
I think we're going to have very different answers.
Okay. What do I think?
Yeah.
I think you're going to get like 235 to 240. I'd like it to be like somewhere between 240 and 250. If that's my final answer is somewhere between there
So
because
maybe we're not too far off.
I want it to be, I don't know. The problem with the length of a movie is I want to spend as much time as possible with these characters because I might not ever see them again, right? Like we might never get new stories with Luke Skywalker after this movie. So I want it to be 3 hours. I'd be fine with if it was 4 hours long. But I want the best story. I want the most satisfying end to some of these characters. I want a lot of story and character elements concluded in this movie. And if it's best done in 2 hours and 15 minutes, then give me that movie. But if you feel like you really need this movie to be 3 hours long to give the best conclusion to this saga, then that's the movie that I want. I'm concerned that sometimes we just want, because like that's what I was starting to do. Well, I want the longest movie possible because I just don't want to let go of these characters. I want the best story. I felt that The Force Awakens was a good story. It gave me a lot of hope. I thought there were a lot of good elements to The Last Jedi, but I wanted a lot of things changed there. I wasn't very satisfied with it. And this, I just want to be, I want some good fan service, appropriate tugs on nostalgia, but I'm thinking I want to see this movie. I want it to hit at least 240.
I think there's enough plot points that they've introduced in the last two movies that they need to wrap up. I would be surprised if this movie isn't pushing 3 hours. I think we're going to be right up to that 3 hour mark.
And we have completely convinced ourselves entirely, wholeheartedly, no questions asked, we will not get a Part 2 Episode 9. Because that was something that David was pulling for a while ago. And I wasn't a fan of it because it's like if you do Part 1, then you do Part 2, it's like Episode 9. Okay, so you got to call that Episode 10, right? Like, it's a different movie. Can you do Episode 9, Part 1, Part 2? I always had a real struggle with that, but I really dig that you've come over to my side of the conversation here, and you're going to do a longer movie. I would like to see 3 hours. I think Lord of the Rings has proven that we'll do 3 hours.
You'd think so.
Infinity War wasn't a short movie by any means. That was almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
We sat through that. What were you about to say? I call you.
We haven't had very many 3 hour movies, though, since The Lord of the Rings.
I think a lot of people are concerned about like attention span with social media and stuff, audience participation and like ability to focus. They go out faster than that's why you see people on their cell phones in the movie theater sometimes. They are the worst. But yeah, I think so. Somewhere around like 245, 250.
You and I just saw a movie, and I think you spent most of the time on your phone.
Well, I was getting
ducking away.
I was getting a text from a person. It was fine. It was my mother. She was at the time we saw Spider into the universe in the multiverse. My mom was texting me what I wanted for Christmas.
Oh.
5 days before Christmas. Okay, so we talked about how long we think this movie is going to be. We're thinking it's going to be somewhere around the 240 to 3 hour mark.
So if we have that long of a movie,
Yeah.
we obviously have to have different scenery and settings.
Okay, yeah.
What kind of environments and how many environments do you think we're going to see from this movie?
One of my favorite traditions of watching the VHS trilogy, like the original 4, 5, and 6 on VHS, There were these Leonard Maltin short interviews released. It was like in front of the movie, and he sat down with George and he talked about like how he came up with the story and the environments for each of the movies. And I think it was Return of the Jedi where George was like, I always try to have 3 different environments in my movies. Because to help with the story, and so you had space, you had Earth, you had, for example, Return of the Jedi. You had the forest, you had the Death Star, you had Tatooine, desert, forest, space, and he tried to do that with all of his movies. And of course, the prequels, we got even more of that. Rogue One, I thought, did a great job of taking to like 7 or 8 different places. I thought that was great. I think you're gonna get at least 5 because wherever the First Order is stationed, wherever the Resistance is now stationed, because it's a year later on the timeline. John Boyega's commented on that. There's been a couple of media releases that the timeline's an hour skip, or I'm sorry, a year skip. So where those 2 bases are. Oh, I have a cat purring on me. He wants to be part of the speculation prediction video for episode 9. Hi, Jasper. Jasper is funny because he talks, when I think of Jasper talking like inside his head, he kind of talks like this. I don't know why.
Because he's a Jasper?
He's a Jasper.
How cool would it be? Because right now, the Resistance really doesn't have a place to hang out. How cool would it be if they went to like Mon Cala and we had some underwater scenes? I'm thinking like,
oh, that would be exceptional.
That'd be really cool.
I think Mon Cala is a place where you could definitely go because you still have Mon Calamari involved with the Resistance. Even though you killed off Akbar in The Last Jedi, you still have others that are probably loyal to the cause.
Because we haven't seen really an underwater type thing since Naboo with the Gungans.
I'm curious to see what happens because it's like, Leia put out that call in Last Jedi and no one responded. I wonder if anyone does respond at some point, and that's where the Resistance camps up. But, before we got interrupted by the cat, where the First Order is, where the Resistance is at, how does Lando factor into this? He's got to be in some planet off-world. And I think you're going to have, if this follows the trend, I wonder if the First Order is going to have, like, not the second Starkiller base, but, like, another monstrosity.
I hope we don't.
But I think it could happen. The First Order is going to be cooking up something because they've just killed, like, Skywalker is, like, he's dead, but he's still out there. Like, I don't think even Kylo, I don't know how much Kylo really knows about what Luke did. So I think that there is going to be, they have to have a base of operations. That might be in space. I don't know. There's going to be a large battle. Where is that going to take place? Is it going to be converging on a location of a Sith or Jedi holocron? Is it there's going to be some neutral space, and so that would give me, I don't know, 4 or 5 locations at this point. But it's probably going to be, you're going to have this base and this base. There's going to be a side mission to this planet. This is where Lando comes into it. Here's where the battle erupts. The battle's going to happen in space and on land. I think you're going to get new walkers. You're going to get the same First Order ships that you've seen, maybe a different kind of fighter. I think Kylo is going to get another ship. Let's see, he has the Silencer, and then he has his Grand Shuttle from Force Awakens. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets another ship. So
of course, they need to have something to market.
They got to have toys. Products. So yeah, I think I'm going to go 4 or 5 environments at least. We know we have like a foresty type of environment from photos that have leaked already.
We know that we've got a sandy type environment.
Yes, we do.
I don't know if that's going to be a Jakku or a Tatooine. Maybe.
Rumors of a snow-capped planet as well. So I'd like to see something more tropical. I don't know. I really liked seeing that in Rogue One.
Yeah, I did, but we just got it in Rogue One.
I think your Mon Cala idea. I think I think
that'd be really cool.
I think that's super cool.
We haven't done anything with like a lot of mountains before that I can think of. So maybe something mountainy and rocky.
Could be heading back to Mustafar. I mean, I think there's a really strong push out there
would be really cool.
that Kylo is going to Vader's castle to try and find something, which is like, why after all this time is he just now going to Vader's castle? But
because he doesn't have Snoke with his
let's not
leash.
find plot holes in a story that we don't know exactly what happens in yet. We're just trying to have fun. Okay, so wipes are a big thing in Star Wars movies, just from like how they're made. George used a lot of them in the original trilogy,
which made it look really cool because you'd have like Hoth, which is pure white, and then you'd have the space scene, which is black with speckled dots for stars, and it would swipe from one to the other, and they were really cool.
And it also kind of felt like you were turning the page. It was the signal of the next chapter, and George used a lot of them. I know that JJ used a fair amount. I know that Rian Johnson used less than 20. It was like 7 or 11. He's like, there were dozens in The Force Awakens. I'm only doing a handful. And that's fine. Some people actually got upset. They're like, "Wow, that ruined my movie experience. I could use more wipes on
More
camera."
wipes? Really?
More wipes.
People get that upset about the wipes?
Some people just are really passionate. I just want lightsabers and space battles, and Luke Skywalker. Okay, cool. So, I don't know, man. I think that it's JJ, so I think he's going to go back to, shooting in a certain way with a certain camera. It's the same 70 frames per second, whatever they did with Force Awakens.
I'm more excited, not for the wipes, but for JJ can shake that camera a certain way.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody else can do it the way he does it, to get that kind of rocky, stuff is happening right now and everything's falling apart. But he just jiggles the camera. That's what I'm looking forward to. And the lens flares.
See, I think he so that's like that's a J.J. Abrams thing, and I get it. In real life, things flare out sometimes, but it was just a little too much. And that's a styling thing. But also, I'm fine with that being that's the new look of Star Wars storytelling. You had the original trilogy, the Phantom Menace, or the prequel trilogy definitely had its own look compared to the original trilogy with the landscape shots. When you arrived at a new planet, you always had that wide shot that either showed you the grand, city of Theed, or all the lava of Mustafar, or Polis Massa. I think I'm saying that like Polis Massa, the medical planet. That's where Padme dies, ultimately giving birth to the twins.
Oh,
yeah. Those stylistic type of things. That's what you got when you arrived at planets. You didn't really get that in the original trilogy. The technology wasn't there to let George do that. I think he might have posted one of those, though. I think he might have added that, though, in the special edition. I'm thinking of the Bespin stuff, for example. Okay, so we talked about the wipes. Do you think it's going to be a big deal? Anything like that going to be?
No. It's...
Because it's JJ doing the same thing he did for 7, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So, references to the prequels, man. Are we going to get any?
I really, we've talked about this a lot. I really, really want Plagueis to be Snoke, or to have some sort of Plagueis reference that ties everything together.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be some fan service that's going to reference, but whether or not that's going to have a big impact on the story, I probably doubt it.
I wanted to make sure I correct myself. I said 70mm. J.J. Abrams shot Force Awakens in 35mm.
Okay.
That was the big deal. Remember, he was using he was just using more traditional cameras, not the newer stuff, because he wanted to shoot it like the originals. He's doing the same thing for Episode 9. It's the same camera.
Awesome.
I think there has to be. In Force Awakens, you get the slam on the clones. In The Last Jedi, I think you got Luke brilliantly talking about Sidious. And I go back and forth because it's I wanted him to call him Palpatine, but it's Sidious was the Sith Lord. That was his name. He was Sidious. Palpatine was
his human name.
His lay name, So I would like to have... I want what you want. I want a Plagueis reference. I think that would be so exceptional.
Tie it all together.
Tie it all together. And it goes back to me, arguably, if it's not the best scene, it's one of the top 2 scenes in Star Wars, is that opera scene in Revenge of the Sith, where that story is being told. But I could also see something about, if Rey's rebuilding the lightsaber, I could understand, there was something in, if they go back to Tatooine and she has Obi-Wan's journals or whatever, I could see there being some kind of reference or throwback to the prequel era there. I would love to have a Qui-Gon Jinn something, Force Ghost. That's not going to happen. I don't know. It's going to happen, but that's one of those things that's it's really hard to come up with. It's they're not going to reference Watto, the junk dealer, and they're not going to reference Wicket or Yub Nub. It's...
Do you think we might see something like that, like a Qui-Gon Force Ghost hanging out with Force Ghost Yoda and Obi-Wan and Anakin in a post-credit scene?
That would be cool. That would be if the movie ends and then they just brought up all the characters and then it went white. That would be pretty cool. But as far as... That's the only... I can only think of a thank you message or something, for 42 years of something, or it was some kind of just Mark Hamill walking out and just thanking the fans. I see something like that. I don't know if it would be cinematic. I don't know if it would be I don't know if it would be an actual scene teasing another story to be told.
I don't necessarily need it to be a scene teasing another movie, but it would be kind of nice fan service to do something like that.
Okay. Is there anything from we kind of dived into the story already, but from like a technical aspect, is there anything that we haven't talked about that we need to? I think because it's J.J. Abrams, I don't think that you really need to have.
Aspect?
I don't think you really need to have a conversation about practical effects because I think he's proven himself to use so many in The Force Awakens. And I just think of like Jakku, like that's a barren planet, Jordan. I'm making sure that Jordan's still awake. He's the best. Jakku is a barren planet. But when you got to that Nemo outpost, how many creatures and characters are practical effects and all those explosions, with the TIE fighters shooting down at Rey and Finn as they run away, trying to escape. That was all practical effects. I mean, not the TIE fighter. The TIE fighter was CG. But the explosions of the blast, that was real. And that creates a magic. And that's going to be a lot of fun, I think, in Episode 9. I would like it to feel a little less soundstagey. When we were at that first village where the First Order kind of flies in and kills all the people, I kind of felt like we were on a sound stage. The last battle, I think it was beautiful in the snow. I started having like the PTSD back to that first scene though. In the first initial moments, I think we're on a sound stage. I think we need to do something else, and eventually it freed up. But yeah, practical effects. I think that's not a concern. I think that is going to play a really great homage, right, to what ILM and what the technical people have done, blending special and practical effects. I think it's going to be really spectacular.
Yep.
Characters.
What's
the first one we should tackle?
Let's tackle Rey right off the bat.
Yeah, makes sense.
Will Rey live or die? We're gonna hit this hard.
There are some people that think that she will die, that like she'll have to like sacrifice herself for the greater good,
I don't think so.
Or like somehow like Rey and Kylo become one, not like in a romantic way, but like to bring balance. Like I don't know, like I think there might be something there. I think Rey lives. I want to believe that Rey will go on and rebuild the Jedi Order, for example. I want to think that Rey...
You wanted that about Luke Skywalker, too, and look how that turned out.
Well, when I read the EU stories, I get to enjoy that. I mean, that's fine. But I that's what I wonder. I wonder if she's going to go on and create the Jedi Order again, or if she's going to try something different, or if she were just to stay with the Resistance. Because I think after this, the Resistance has to try and be like, what do they become, like the new Republic? The newer Republic?
At this point, they may decide that a Republic's probably not worth it.
Like what do they become? Like, the United the United Planets of the Galaxy? I don't know. I wonder. I don't know. Do you think she's dead or alive at the end of this?
She has to live, because why would Disney get slammed all the time? I guess Star Wars gets slammed all the time for not having strong women characters outside of Princess Leia. So why would they give us a strong woman character and then kill her off?
I think that's valid.
Especially after,
That's probably why they kept Leia alive all 3 episodes, and
right.
And that's not a slam. I think that's a factor.
How about lightsabers?
I think she fixes Luke's.
I think she's gonna make her own.
I wanted her to take the crystal of Skywalker and place it in that staff and have a double-sided lightsaber. But I think she's just gonna fix Luke's saber.
I think she's going to make her own, because we haven't seen that on camera yet. I mean, we've seen it in the Clone Wars cartoon. There's a deleted scene from
Return of the Jedi.
But in terms of the movie canons, we have yet to see the construction of a lightsaber. So I think that may be some fan service that JJ is going to give us there.
The last thing for Rey that I think about is her relationship with Kylo. And I mentioned just a moment ago, I think, two become one somehow to restore balance. I don't know if we're going to get into the mysticism of the Force. I highly doubt it, because of how Disney and Lucasfilm shipped out George's original plans for 7, 8, and 9. He wanted to dive into that mysticism, the wills,
Right.
But does she redeem Kylo? Does she have to kill Kylo?
Kylo needs to die.
And it's by the saber of Rey.
There's no redeeming him, I don't think.
Do you so? And I agree with you. What is the argument, though, to keep him alive? Is it just the soul can be saved? Because to me, there's just bad people in the world. Like Hitler is just a bad person. He's a great public speaker, but he's responsible for millions of people dying. No one out there is like, well, let's redeem Hitler. Maybe this is too an extreme of an example, but I look at Kylo. Kylo is responsible for 5 planets getting destroyed. That's billions of people. Like, you don't just get to say, I'm sorry, and come back and join the crowd. Like, he dies. He has to die. So, looking forward to that. And, we mentioned Kylo. First things on Kylo. Like you mentioned, like, he's going to die.
I think he'll die. I think before he dies, he'll have a new look. I think now that he's kind of the grand poobah of the First Order, and he doesn't have Snoke looming over him, theoretically, I think he's going to jazz up how he looks. I mean, we've already seen him break his iconic helmet.
I want a new helmet.
You want a new helmet?
I want a new helmet.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer that Kylo should not have unmasked himself until The Last Jedi.
Okay.
Like, The
Make
Last
that the
Jedi.
reveal?
Like, he shouldn't have taken his helmet off until that duel with Luke.
Okay.
Because Kylo Ren is far more intimidating than Adam Driver's face. And it could have been any actor. That helmet was
Pretty cool.
pretty cool.
Do you think that Kylo will have some sort of tender moment or redeeming moment or argument, some sort of encounter with Leia?
Dude, I think that's possible because, like, one of the ways he could die is by his own hand. So there could be an exchange. And then he ultimately ends himself to let the good people live. That's like the only way I could see them trying to like make him
So
at the
that's
very
his
end he made a good
redemption,
decision.
is he
Yeah. But the galaxy will still know him as
the bad guy?
the bad guy. But also, I don't know how many people how many people know that Kylo Ren is Ben? Like, I don't know if that's like public knowledge.
I don't know.
Like, I don't think that's a thing. Like, I think, but maybe it is. I mean, maybe whatever. I mean, maybe it got out that he killed all of Luke's pupils.
How many people know about Snoke and Kylo Ren to begin with outside of the First Order? Because when we see them coming in, the Force Awakens, I mean, they're kind of a recent threat, and then The Last Jedi takes place immediately afterwards. And most of the people who would actually care about that stuff were on the 5 Republic government planets that were destroyed.
Well, I think we're learning that right now with
And we
the
know
Star
the
Wars
Knights
Resistance.
we know the Knights of Ren are out there.
Right.
But
Well, and that also is a culty type of thing too. So, the way I look at it is this: the Resistance is showing that Starkiller Base is being developed, and the First Order is growing in numbers. Obviously, the Resistance doesn't know about Starkiller Base because they've just gotten the plans to Starkiller Base.
I mean, does the people who matter are going to know about them? But is Joe Farmer on the middle of Naboo going to know about the First Order?
Core World's definitely, and I'm sure it has to leak out there with all the smugglers, all the pirates, the way the Star Wars Galaxy works. I'm sure it's out there, but I think you're onto something. There might be a varied understanding because the First Order isn't like the Empire, where, at least from our knowledge, the First Order is not overseeing like civilized life. Like, they don't have garrisons on all the planets.
They're not collecting taxes and creating laws.
No,
and
the First
doctrine.
Order is just like this it's like just the remnants of the Imperial ships. And by the time we get to the First Order, the Empire's reign on all the other planets is gone. So
if Leia does have a conversation with Kylo,
Yeah.
is she going to be mad at him? Is she going to be disappointed in him?
it is. I will
what's-
always love you because you're my son.
But she killed my husband, so die. I mean, where does that conversation
I don't
go
know.
for you for that?
I think it comes down to, I'm sorry I failed you, but I will, I love you. But then if you think about what happens in The Last Jedi, she goes, I know my son's gone. So I don't know. But it's definitely not going to be like Leia killing Kylo. Like, Leia's dead by the end of the first third. Like, there's no way she's going through the whole movie.
Do you think Leia will come back as a Force ghost with Luke
No.
and taunt him?
No. But we can talk about that in a little bit when we. Oh, well, you know what? You might as well just go right into Leia.
Leia.
I don't think so. I think that's a really. No, I think she's gone in the first third of the movie because I think that's what's going to trigger the first great move. Like, there might be a battle early on, and she goes kind of like what we thought was going to happen with The Last Jedi when she gets blown out of the ship. But I don't think she comes back as a Force ghost. I don't think she's had that training, especially Luke's been gone for quite some time. Leia could, use the Force in some ways, but it's been articulated in, The Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray, how things would kind of happen. She didn't quite understand how.
Okay.
Then you get into Bloodlines by Claudia Gray, and Leia has been taught a few things by Luke. but she separated herself. She didn't want to become a Jedi. She wanted to stay in her arena, which was politics. And so for that reason, I don't think she can come back as a Force ghost.
Okay.
Sorry just to kind of crap all over that.
That's fine. I think when Leia does die, because Han was killed and Luke kind of exhausted himself and faded out of existence, I think Leia's just got to go a natural way.
Okay.
I think it's just everybody she's loved is gone and she's ready to pass the torch, and
I think you're on.
kind of like a Yoda death.
No, I think you're right. You know what? How about this? Because we've got Leia, we have Luke next, and Poe and Finn, and a couple other characters. Why don't we do a quick 20-second break?
Okay.
And then we'll come back and address Luke and then the rest of the new crew.
Perfect.
Let's do that. All right, we'll be right back.
All wings report in. Brand new Beyond the Blast Door collector pins are now in stock. Help spread the word about the Beyond the Blast Door Star Wars conversation by picking up a brand new exclusive show pin. Pins are only $8. Order and pay online at BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. Movies, TV, comics, toys, cosplay. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.
Really like that commercial, don't you?
The graphic of the doors closing, I just really like that.
Well,
Was that Steve that made
Steve
that for us?
Hyman. Yeah, he did that.
That's great.
So we're back here. We just needed we needed water, and we wanted you to know that you could support the show by buying our pins. But we're back here doing our deep dive into episode 9, Luke Skywalker. This is the one that I think that a lot of people are focused on. Obviously Rey and Kylo, because those are the center characters in this new sequel trilogy. But then how are they going to kill off Leia, or not kill her off, but how are they going to pay tribute to her with a respectful death? But then Luke, because he's the one actor that's still alive, that's still in this story. They killed him off at the end of The Last Jedi. So Force Ghost, duh. But how does this work? I mean, first off, do you think it's going to be a Force Ghost that we've traditionally received, David? Or do you think this is going to be the scary, haunting Force Ghost that he teased, haunting Kylo?
I think I don't see Luke as a ghost being a haunting type ghost like boogity boogity boo, not something out of like The Nightmare Before Christmas. But I could see him just being like passive aggressive and taunting Kylo. Like Kylo not getting his way and Luke just kind of appearing there like, huh, you could have done that one better, couldn't you have, champ?
Yeah, no, I like that idea. We haven't seen Force Ghosts reveal themselves to anyone else that's not a Jedi. So like, we don't think that this. I think the Sith are so focused on reality that they maybe they don't know about living in the afterlife, because like Plagueis was so focused on living forever and creating life. Right?
But is that by choice of the Forced Ghost though?
And that's what I don't know. And so if it's by the choice of the Force Ghost, it'd be great to see him confront Kylo and like completely torment him. And then he go into rage mode and then Kylo dies. But I think there's a possibility that we will actually see interaction between them. Not haunting. He'll still be the blue Force Ghost, but that's what I'm really hoping for, is that there is some trickery that he plays with Kylo. I think that would be kind of consistent.
And I hope it's passive aggressive. I feel like that would be in Luke's character at this point in the story.
Well, yes, but remember when he died, when he sacrificed himself for the Resistance, it was all about coming to peace. Leia felt peace. I don't know if he would be passive aggressive. I think he would just be very matter of fact. I just can't wait to see him in the Jedi robes. Like that's gonna be really cool. Less or more than 5 minutes in the movie.
More than 5 minutes.
When you think of that,
But
though,
probably not much more than 5 minutes.
there are big characters in the Star Wars story, like major characters like Lando. He only has like 3.5 minutes on camera.
That's it?
That's it.
No.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. In Empire Strikes Back.
I think Luke's going to have at least one showstopper moment where he has his grandiose conversation with whomever he's going to do that with. But then I could see him popping, kind of like in Return of the Jedi when Obi-Wan shows back up on Dagobah right after Yoda dies. And there's that, come to Jesus moment. There is another Skywalker, and, Luke's got to have at least one scene like that, and then maybe another couple smaller appearances where he just kind of.
Is he lighting a tree on fire?
Maybe. We know it's possible now.
Or he somehow disintegrates a ship
I think that's too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, too far.
We'll see. Poe?
Poe. I don't care. Next character.
Really?
I don't care.
Well, I had a real debate when I was laying out the show notes for this because I was like, do you go new characters then OT? But I was like, no, I think you got to go from like order of like value to the story, and that Rey and Kylo are gonna be the top dogs. Leia and Luke are interchangeable. You might flip Luke up more just because his story has more flexibility with Mark Hamill being alive.
Right. I think.
Go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna say, I think Finn will have more value than Poe, but I think Poe positioned in the Resistance will have more impact on the galaxy. So that was my thinking because I think he's gonna have a higher established rank of command.
The higher rank of command he has, the more capability he has to get ships blown up.
But I want to
pilot. He can only blow up one.
But Leia will die, and he will have some kind of growth where he will better understand how to command the Resistance. And you might honestly see him sacrifice himself. I think Poe could die in this. I think he could, leading the Resistance and having to save the crew. He might actually be the one sacrifice.
So if you think he's going to take a higher command post and be the leader of the Resistance, is he going to spend his time with Rey and Finn, or is he going to be mostly separate from them doing his own thing?
I think that everyone's going to start out together, and then I think people are going to go separate. I think that's how that's going to play out because I think that Finn is going to go more with Rey because I think JJ is going to prioritize him more. As he kind of did in Force Awakens.
I just saw your last talking point on this one.
Yeah, do Poe and Finn kiss? There is a theory out there that these are lovers.
You are such a fanboy.
No, I'm not cheering for this, but I think it's interesting. I think it's like I hate the Reylo theory. Like I absolutely hate it.
Okay.
I loathe it. And then there's people that come out there and be like, actually, no. The reason why Kylo and Hux have such a debacle is because of the amount of sexual tension on the ships, and like. Hux just cannot resist Kylo, and so I don't buy that either. I ship that, and since we're a family show, I'm gonna try and keep this still appropriate. I don't think it's gonna happen, but if there is a new romance to happen, I think that's where it would be. I think it would be, unless JJ keeps what Ryan did and kind of puts that flirty vibe in between Rey and Poe. But I think they're gonna keep Rey as a independent, strong female lead of this franchise who I don't have time for a relationship with anybody because I have to go save everybody.
I'm just going to take my droid with me. That's all the satisfaction she needs.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to get a droid.
No.
They have those in Japan now. Self-serving. Okay, so that's Poe. Finn, he's going to be with Rey. JJ's going to put Finn back with Rey. I think he's going to be there to be the muscle. Not that she needs the muscle, but she's going to be the companion. Poe's going to go fight in space.
With the recent developments in The Last Jedi between Finn and Rose, do you think that Finn's relationship with Rey is going to become more like sibling, like brotherly protection? I care about you. Don't die. Keep being awesome. Like close friends. Or do you think it's going to have a more romantic love triangle where Rose is into Finn, but Finn's into Rey, and Rey's into droids?
Just for the sake, I don't think there's gonna be a romance.
I don't think we need a romance.
Oh, I don't think a romance is ever needed, but I don't think you can argue that romance isn't. It's not like the main plot line of Star Wars, but like you watch Empire Strikes Back, you can't tell me that romance isn't a driving force for the characters that we follow. Like Leia and Han, that's a romance unfolding for that 2-hour stretch. I think that because you have so much to tie up in this movie, one of them gets somebody. So Rey is either going to get somebody or nobody.
Okay.
And Finn is either going to get Rey, Finn, or Rose. And Poe's either going to get Rey or Finn. And Rose is either going to get Finn or maybe a trash compactor. It's a joke. It's a joke.
This sounds overly complicated. They should just all throw their keys in a fishbowl and pick a set out when they walk out the door.
People do that in real life too. Rose is a character I want to talk about because I feel like Rose was a character that I really enjoyed where they could have gone with the character, but I don't feel like she wasn't used. And like my whole problem with Rose is that scene where she blocks out Finn from the sacrifice.
How was her vehicle quicker than his to be able to pass and turn
Right.
and come over?
Yeah, there's that debate. I think Rose is a great new character. Like I like a lot about it. I think Kelly Marie Tran is like the perfect person you want in Star Wars because she's a fan. She's a great actress. She's believable. Like there was never a moment where I'm like Kelly Marie Tran, really nailed that part. I just was like, wow, Rose Tico is like a cool girl. Like she is.
But
she works.
She was underutilized through Canto Bight,
Yes,
and then she served as a plot point to save Finn.
absolutely.
And I think she deserves more than just being a plot point or a failed.
I think if the whole like Maz Kanata Battlefront 2 checkpoint scenario would have been and could have been just, hey, we need to go to this place to get this information or whatnot, and they would have just gone on the ship and they would have been tracked and they would have been attacked by the First Order and there was some like mechanical error and she's there and she's able to save the day and she's also a really good pilot and people didn't know how good she was with the blaster. She ends up blasting for whatever that is. Like give her like something more legitimate than just being kind of a damsel that saves the other damsel in distress. That whole scene, what's the line? It's like, we're not going to win this war by, you got to save the ones you love or something, whatever that line is in that battle on Crate. That was terrible. That would have given Finn, like, I hope Finn has a fitting end in this episode 9 because I really thought that for all it was worth, Finn sacrificing himself in 8 so the First Order can continue on was like a really fitting thing because he goes from being in the First Order to lying about being in the Resistance. He gets brought on to Rey. He finds a better cause for himself, and then he gives him his life so that the order that he had served will fail and give the Resistance another day to live. Now, of course, he gets saved to clear the way for Luke.
So you
It's just-
mentioned
I don't know.
Maz. Do you think Maz is going to have a return?
It would be really cool if Maz was somehow connected to how Rey rebuilds a saber. And then that whole how did the saber get in my hands story get told. That would be really cool. And that is worth to me a minute and a half of the movie.
Okay.
Like it doesn't have to be grand. We talked about it we talked about 2 weeks ago how originally that vision she has when she touches the saber, that was supposed to tell the story of how the saber ended up in Maz Kanata's hands.
And we still don't know that story.
Right, which is why I'd like to see that at 9. I think that would be a really good use of Maz. But yeah, I don't need her like fighting on a battlefront and then like taking a call and then
Which is
somehow dodging
kind-
all this stuff.
Which I thought was really weird because she was a barkeep.
Yeah, but she's like 1,000 years old and she's like in touch with the Force and she's feisty and she's helping I was assuming that she was helping the Resistance somewhere, but she was dealing with some like civil conflict or
At
something.
1,000 years old, you got to be tired. I'm 30 and I'm ready to retire. She's 1,000. I mean, come on. At some point, you just got to kind of relax.
Or maybe you need to take better care of your body.
Thanks. So,
You only get one.
speaking of bodies,
How much did you eat this holiday season?
not much.
Okay.
Big bodies. How about Chewie? Nice, big, furry.
I think Chewie just at the end of the day gets the Falcon. Like I think that's his reward.
Do you think that's going to be the end of the show where the Falcon just... Psh?
I don't know what I don't know. I don't think Chewbacca is a character that you can go further with. Like I don't want to follow Chewie because Chewie doesn't speak English. And so like I can't understand. Now maybe if you started subtitling everything that he said, but we haven't done that before. So if you subtitle them, maybe you could do like I don't know, a TV something with him.
Well, that's kind of what they did on Solo, was they scripted lines so that way Alden could have a conversation with him.
Right,
But then they...
we don't know what he's actually saying though. We just guess. So yeah, I think that Chewie will be heroic, and he's either gonna get the Falcon to fly off, maybe Lando goes with him, or Chewie dies, which would be heartbreaking. Rey gets the Falcon. Because I don't know, because like Lando, for example, like we haven't talked about Lando, but like Lando's like a really good original trilogy throwback, but I don't see him having that much to do in the show. I mean, I know he's like doing workouts and stuff, and I think that's just to drop weight, but I don't see him being in the movie for more than a couple of minutes. I think he'll have a couple quick whips and he'll be out of there.
Yeah, I don't see him dying. I see him going off and retiring and playing, what's that card game, Sabak,
Sabak, yeah.
and drinking his.
Going back to what he loves the most.
Yeah.
Having a Corellian wine in the honor of Han Solo. Will Harrison Ford have a cameo in Episode 9?
I doubt it.
There's no way.
No way.
I just thought about that.
I mean, it depends on how much they're willing to pay him. I mean, if they pay him a crap ton of money, I bet he'd do it.
That's, yeah, I think at that point he's like, no, I'm done. He was done. C-3PO.
C-3PO.
R2-D2. To me, if they continue on this whole Rey thing, I think Rey will keep R2, but I think C-3PO is just now like the Resistance assistant and will stay there. Maybe he gets gifted to somebody else because like Poe has BB-8, so he doesn't need R2. And then Leia's not making this out, so I really do think that.
Or is BB-8 going to go over with Rey because
No.
they have a pretty good connection?
I just don't think it compares to what was pre-established. I mean, especially if you go and read Charles Soule, Poe Dameron run. I mean, he's got his droid, So I definitely think that if R2 is going to go with someone and not stay with the Resistance, it's probably going to be Rey. I think it's going to be Rey, and I'd be okay with that. Because if it's not Rey and it's not the Resistance, who could it be? Who could possibly be? There's not a real tight connection with Chewie.
I don't know.
Chewie sure as hell isn't going to take C-3PO. So he just rip. He wouldn't have the patience for it. Chewie's going to have a couple of porgs. They're gonna coast out and they're gonna have a little children's golden reading novel series the kids can read. Chewie and the porgs go to Honolulu. Chewie and the porgs go to I don't know what's the Star Wars planet. Go to Mustafar. They don't stay there that long because the porgs can't handle the heat. I don't know, some kind of cool thing. I think the only
go to Hoth and have porg sickles.
So I think we've talked about all the characters that we can think of. The only other one that I can think of is Carrie Fisher's daughter, Billy Lord. We talked about this a few weeks ago.
Yeah, how they're going to give her a bigger role.
Yeah, if they're going to give her a bigger role. I think she'll be involved, probably with the battles and stuff. But I don't think that's an ongoing character, even though I could see her getting some love in the comics. Anything else? The Millennium Falcon. Okay,
Falcon.
Here it is. Episode 9. It's the last Skywalker saga. The Falcon isn't truly like. Is that the what do they call it? The MacGuffin? Will the Millennium Falcon just continue to be handed over, kind of like the saber, or is the Millennium Falcon going to be destroyed in Episode 9?
I could see them going both ways because the Millennium Falcon is just as much a character as any of the other people, and I could see them blowing it up to try to tug at our heartstrings. I could also see that being the one of the final shots where the Falcon, rides off into the sunset, if you will, through space. Honestly, I don't know which one I'd prefer. I mean, how old's your car, David?
Like 7 years.
Is it falling? I mean, does it have its dings and
it
bumps
does.
and scratch? I mean, the Millennium Falcon's 80. Can you? I mean,
maybe even more than that.
How many 80-year-old cars do you see rolling around the streets of the Midwest?
Yeah, but it's Star Wars. The metal is stronger and the cords are tighter,
right?
And hyperspace can handle hyperspace.
Right. I'm sure that's going to take a big toll on it. Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it. We'll see. We got a year.
We'll see. We have a year. We've just gone through all the major characters. Man, it's a conversation that can keep going on, but we're done. But now I'm just thinking are they gonna Leia dies? You're not gonna have a Leia funeral.
No.
It's gonna be weird how that gets addressed. But they could also be lying to us. Maybe she's dead by the opening scroll, and they're it starts out Episode 9. Leia is dead. It could happen.
I don't know.
What do you think? That's what we want to know. Thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Thanks for joining us for this dive deep into Episode 9. We want to know what you think. Give us your best. At this time, we still don't know what the heck this movie is called. I really thought we were going to have a teaser by now. So we're recording this on to be truthful, we're recording this on the 23rd. So there's, I guess, a chance that it drops in the next week. But if it doesn't, then okay, now we're going into 2019 without the name of the movie.
You can do the YouTube live thing on your phone, right?
Yeah.
And we'll be down in Texas for that conference.
Yeah, we'll premiere
it.
it.
If there is one, we'll just pop on and deal with that.
Yeah,
there.
we'll still be in the live chat. We'll premiere we're going to premiere what we're talking about right now on the 30th or the 31st. Either way, I guess you won't know until we upload it. That's the fun of this. But we want to know what you think. The characters that we discussed. What are your thoughts on all of them? Rey and Kylo. How's it going to shake out with Luke and Leia? Will Finn and Poe have a role? And then do you want like a 3-hour movie? Do you want like a 2-hour movie? We want to have that Star Wars conversation. So let's keep this Star Wars conversation strong and alive as we head into the new year. David, so glad we could do this, man. Thanks for making the time.
Yep.
And happy holidays.
Same to you.
And happy holidays to you. We'll see you soon. May the Force be with you.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.